Ooh,
And
child,
above all else, we know this.
things are
In
gonna get
America, we
easier.
don't worship government, we worship God.
How about
And still,
a scope within a scope? How about a moment
glory
within a
to
moment?
God, a humble servant to Christ.
I love that. That's such a good tune. I hope I'm with you guys. I hope we're streaming and we're all there. Let's make sure I got connectivity. I don't know. It's hard to see if I'm actually broadcasting yet. Oh, there we are. You know, up the woods, everything is a little slower, and the mosquitoes are just a little bit faster, aren't they? The mosquitoes are a little bit faster, and the internet is a little bit slower. It's good to see you guys. Hello, Preacher's Kid. Hello, Raylene. Hello, Tranquil. That is a great handle for this time. Hello, Rocket. Hello, Praying Medic. Hello there. By the way, you know, on my Periscope, it has disallowed me to tweet anybody's scopes out. Like, I can't tweet. I can share, but I cannot tweet on Periscope. I asked them for a long time because I used to do that. And anyway, hello from Kansas. Hello, hello, hello. Love the hat. I know. Well, that's lake hair under there. Last night, and it was the water has been like body temperature. And last night, I just ran out, jumped in, and swam in the dark, and came back in. And you do not want to see what's under this. Time to settle down now above first base. Does that mean you're upset? Are you okay? Are you? I have to say, Dilly's scope yesterday was really, really encouraging. I needed to hear that. We've heard the Charlie Shamp testimonies. I think that's super important. You guys are probably hip to this. Apparently, Charlie Shamp took a team of people into Chaz Chopped, Charlie Horst, whatever it is, and they were ushered and protected by leaders of the group, and they were ministering apparently fairly. Aw, thanks, COVID operator. They were ministering pretty seriously in Chaz Chop and seeing some stuff happen in there. And I think that's phenomenal because I was praying about that. You know, Mario Murillo's ministry got started apparently during the Berkeley riots in the 70s. And that the Lord sent him in. And that's how his ministry got, Charlie Horst. And that's how his ministry got started. Isn't that fantastic? I can't even see icons of who's on. And you know what? Some days it's better that I think it's just me and my three closest friends, because we have to trust. You're at your most fiery every day. Anywhere else, chilling out. Okay, all right. Well, I really derived a lot of prophetic strength even from what I've been processing and sharing with you over the past couple of days about keeping your powder dry. Of course, I can never usually manage to type accurately. I am a typo queen. But let me tell you something interesting that happened today. I went for an eye exam, and I have not had an eye exam in a long time. A long time. And I had this eye LASIKed to correct for reading close up. So I had an eye for reading and an eye for distance. And it was awesome. But then, you know, things started to change. So then I started to get a contact for this eye. So with my contact on, I'm like 20/20, which is weird. But there's, you know, so this eye is always, I was like, this guy actually was corrected and changed with surgery to be a close-up eye. And this one was my awesome distance eye. So I go in, and guess what's happening? This eye is now fierce at distance. This eye that was surgically corrected to only be able to see close up, well, is now better than my original eye at seeing distance. And I said to the guy, I said, does this mean I've been wearing my contact in the wrong eye all this time? He said, no, because that's something I would do. And I said, is that for real? He goes, yeah, I mean, people's eyes and stuff change. But I said, have you ever seen that before? I mean, is that? And he's kind of like shaking his head, like, um, I don't think I've ever. Wow, I mean, that's really kind of out there. If he said he saw somebody's eye switch, I mean, this eye was surgically changed to be the close-up eye, and now it is way better. I mean, significantly better than this eye at seeing in the distance. And for those of you prophetic people, don't you think that means something? Don't you think that there's a shift coming? Don't you think we're going to start seeing differently, and we're going to start perceiving differently? Don't you think we're going to start stepping into stuff? And um, and I really believe that we need to stay on the encouragement bus, and we need to stay focused, and we need to remember what we have. Q says, you always says, you have more than you know. And I have been feeling, you feel this externalized barometric pressure change in terms of the forces coming upon us. And it's easy to feel, and then the stuff coming out of us. And it's easy to feel um, like I don't know enough. I don't have what it takes. I don't got what I need. What else, what new prophetic word can I get? What new shot in the arm? And I do think that we need to consistently fill ourselves with fellowship and with information from encouragers. I have the ministry of edification. That means building up. So I'm constantly building and building for myself, and building and trying to build other people up, because I believe in transformation. I believe in freedom. I believe in healing. I believe you can actually get to the goal, the reason why you were placed in your mother's womb. And and that is all dependent on us understanding what we already have, and who we already are, and what he's already doing, and the things that we may not be seeing. And maybe, I just think it's wild that my eyes have totally changed, and now they're gonna they're gonna shift and maybe get me a nifty little contact lens for this guy. And this guy was surgically changed to not look at distance. Now sees farther and better. You think that? Do you think maybe God is doing something interesting in the earth? Do you think maybe limitations and things are shifting, like poles are shifting and things are realigning? I mean, maybe some of you uh, awesome. Well, I've missed you too. Former Ron the Patriot Ramatron, you really have perseverance to stick around out there and keep doing it. I comforted myself because I thought about intense risk and intense force. Like, we want to be force multipliers. We want to be releasing really important truth bombs, red pills, freedom for the people around us. But we want to keep our powder dry. We want to know when we're supposed to deploy, and we want to know when, in that moment, when we're doing the scariest, riskiest things we have ever before for the sake of our nation, for the kingdom of God, for the love of others. We want to know, we have the sense, this is it, time to deploy. And I suggested to you guys to consider your resources. Well, I'm talking to my kid last night, and she's telling me what she's learning about the history of the Great Awakenings, two Great Awakenings. She's a student at the King's College out of New York City, and it's phenomenal. History of theology, ethics, logic, reason, they're all classical, uh, Western Civ based Christian views on everything from how you interpret Marxism and all these things. And she's just absolutely blowing my mind with the way she's articulating the issues in play. And all of a sudden I get this brainstorm, and I think, because I've watched her, because I was telling you that I was purposely trying to raise my kids to not be afraid of conflict, to not be afraid of being disliked, and to not fall into a puddle when when people weren't nice and people rejected them. And boy, I am so encouraged, because they have in their DNA and their experience such a leg up in dealing with debate and conflict far beyond, I think, our generation is used to having. And I looked at her and I watched her, managing these conversations with radicals on her Instagram page, and I watched her stepping up to the plate, and I all of a sudden I went, ding, resource. Your kid is a resource. She is somebody who can, right in front of you, who can manage stressful, confrontational social media situations better than you can, more efficiently. I was telling somebody recently who was really on the front lines, and I want you guys to think about this. I want you to think carefully about what your resources are. I'm going to give you a specific tip to consider. What's the number one reason why we don't speak up more on social media? Because we don't want to be bullied, we don't want to be unfriended, we don't want to be hated. Have you guys ever thought about creating teams that support each other in those moments? I was talking to someone who does a phenomenal job, but just had gotten slammed in the DMs based on some stuff, and really, really weighing this person down, draining them. And I said, and he was talking about his kid, and I said, well, why don't you have your kid open your DMs for you? He's old enough, your son. Why don't you pay your child, your high school age kid, to go through all your DMs before you see them and completely root the ones out that you have no business wasting your time on? And this was interesting because I did this in a setting that was really painful. I wrote a cantata, the Rising Cantata, and we did a really unusual type of performance. We played the recording and had dance and art and music and light, and I played it at Berklee College of Music downtown in Boston. And I went ahead and I promoted it to critics and reviewers, because I really think it's a super quality piece of jazz classical artwork, and it was arranged by a three-time Grammy-nominated jazz orchestra arranger, and it's super worshipful. And so I invited some critics, thinking, I think this stands up. Well, this critic came, and the minute he smelled Yeshua in the middle of this cantata based on ancient Jewish prayer, he went out. He did the I'm going to personalize this thing, and he attacked me personally in a review that went across, at least across the East Coast, and bumped into some people, that friends of friends, and went farther. And I had no idea this had even happened. And I'm talking about mature kids, okay? I'm talking about young adult kids that are already in debates and understand, okay? So I'm just saying that this younger generation is more equipped to deal with this, or friends are, or your husband or wife is more equipped to deal with it than sometimes we are. So when I had the cantata review, this guy just got down and dirty and ugly and personal. He didn't address the work. He just got personal and left after 3 songs and attacked me, called me Jews for Jesus, like, that it was a plot, the Jews for Jesus plot. And when I got the review, my rabbi, my Messianic rabbi friend, stuck up for me, and he said, I need to let you know this is out there. And I was shocked. I didn't even know. And he actually wrote a response. But when I looked it up online, I scanned through and I saw 2 or 3 really hurtful things, and I closed it immediately. And I thought, because of the power of the shock of a painful arrow, okay, those things tend to stick with you, don't, and they lose that sort of poisonous thing. This is why I appreciate others who have said, Dave, Praying Medic, said that he had purposely not watched the George Floyd video because he didn't want to be traumatized by it. And we're constantly being sent visual and auditory things that are really, I think, intentionally meant to traumatize us personally and as a nation. So we probably need to do more trauma healing this summer. And so I knew personally that if I went into that critical thing in the newspaper, that that it would hurt me. And so I called 2 of my friends, and I said, I really, really wanted to just blow it off and never look at it and say, screw you, who are you? But I felt like the Lord was prompting me, because there was fear in avoiding dealing with it. And always watching what I avoid, and you should watch what you avoid because the gold is on the other side of what you're avoiding. The strength is on the other side. The victory is on the other side of the avoidance and the procrastination, which is anxiety, basically. And so I called my friend, and this will matter to you. The story has a point. Called two friends, and I said, "Would you please read this thing for me and tell me if there's anything I need to learn from it? Because it's too painful for me to read these words, and they'll affect me too deeply." And so these two women, very mature women, took the time. Both had been at the event, and one of them actually had some, artistic criticism about the way that I did it, which was not negative. It was just positive. She's just different. She's super visual, so she didn't like the idea of a listening party event without more visual stim. And it was important criticism. But both of these women went through this really negative thing. They filtered it, and I met with them, each of them, and I didn't want to. I hated the thought of it. And they gave me the little kernels out of it. They even found a couple positives um, um, out of it when he mentioned my voice, or something. So she gleaned, and they threw out all the rocks, all the crap, all the stuff, brought to me things that they thought I could actually grow from. One or two, nothing huge, and then I put it aside, and then I actually wound up writing a letter to this guy. It was really interesting. The Lord gave me a letter to write that basically owned the territory of authority, love, and clarity and correction. So I actually wound up having sort of the last kingdom word into that person's heart. Weird, okay? What if, my friends, you're dealing with something where there's likely to be a backlash coming back at you? What makes you think you have to deal with that alone? What makes you think you have to open your direct messages yourself in a hotly inflamed social media setting? What makes the clickbait? I've learned when there are comments on Twitter, the little heart under a post, I don't even click on them. I don't look, because for every two or three positive ones, there tends to be one or two that are just meant to deliver a delicious little bit of poison. Why do I need to do that? The people that God is bringing who have connection with me, that I need to engage with, tend to come a different way. They come a different way. I don't put myself in the shooting gallery of opening everything, and nor should you. But if you decide to do something gutsy and put it out there, what kind of resources do you have? What if you gathered around you a team of people that were ready to jump on your posts to support you? They have those bots, those Chinese bots, right? The bot farms. Brendan Dilley showed us a bot farm where there were literally rows and rows and rows and rows of shelves, each with hundreds and hundreds of cell phones in each shelf, all tied up to a computer, all tied up to AI, fishing the whole internet for keywords so they can jump on and criticize people who are presumably patriotic, Trump support, whatever. So you get the effect of thousands and thousands of these bots that are programmed to beat you down. Now, on Facebook, presumably you know people more personally. But what makes any of us think that if we're going into battle, we have to be the one always? Do you think it's possible that occasionally there's someone in your life, a friend, that you could turn your Facebook page over to for a couple of weeks, who could go through and delete all the crap and unfriend the people who are being abusive, and give a few thumbs up and hearts to others, and then cull through and help you decide which conversations are worth your time? Why don't we think like that? Why don't you think about the resources? Do you have a college kid in your life? Can you hire a kid? Can you hire somebody? Politicians, they don't run their own Facebook pages. They don't run their own social media. A lot of people don't. So, what if God's calling you in the same way? If you've got to deal with a difficult situation, an abuser in your life, an alcoholic in your life, what makes you think you have to do that alone? What makes you think you can't assemble a team of people who can be present with you? Somebody be present with you when you have that difficult conversation, and someone who can witness what was said, and someone who can walk you in off the plank. Much less, obviously, the power of the Holy Spirit, the authority of the Word of God and prayer. But guys, I sort of think it's time that we clustered into groups to to draw ranks around one another when there's gutsy moves happening. And some of you have groups. I know uh, there's the Greenbeard Facebook tribe, and there's different fellowships that are sort of arising, you know, where people have these online off, conversations between scopes, and they're supporting each other. Awesome. What if we need to gather like that, but also deploy like that? So if you know a brother or a sister that really is starting to stick their neck out and do some red pilling or stand up against the masses and say something gutsy, maybe they're going to call the herd. Maybe it's time to call the herd. Maybe we have too many Facebook friends. I really appreciate the fact that Brendan Dilley's been teaching us not to back down, not to apologize to a mob, and not to be afraid to shake the dust off of your followers page. To say, look, I'm about ready to put out a hello hello world. This is after you read this, you might just want to unfriend me. Please do. Any negative comments will be deleted. Here's what I really think. And what if, in addition to preparing emotionally for that, getting ready, learning how to deal with it, what if you didn't have to do it alone? Who's in your life that can filter for you the criticism you've received, the letter you received, the input? Who could step back with you and be your first, could you turn your Facebook or your Twitter page or your Instagram over to somebody for 2 weeks after you really put it out there and let them filter it? Here's my code. Here's how, get rid of the things, go ahead and unfriend. Because you know what, if somebody unfriends you on Facebook, you'll never know it unless they leave you a snotty remark on the way out the door. You'll never know it. Why should you have to? You just start wondering after a time, wow, I really don't hear from this person anymore. It's all silent on the Western Front with, Mildred Forgard. Don't hear from her anymore. Oh, I guess she's busy. Why should we have to perseverate over people that immediately want to just cut us out and want to leave abusive comments? It's just a thought. It's just a thought. How can you force multiply? We're in a war. We're in a psychological war. Okay, it's a spiritual war and a psychological war. And I don't think it's being wussy, and I don't think it's being silly to call in a friend or two and say, well, you run interference for me. I'm going to stick my neck out. I'm going to say stuff I never said before. I'm going to shake it up, and I know I'm going to get a lot of comments, and I'm going to get unfriended. And frankly, I don't want, the way I'm wired, I don't want to spend a lot of time worrying about it. So if you can do some of the cleanup for me, I can be more productive, and I'll do it for you. When you're in there, get your friends, let people know to come on your page and give you a thumbs up and support you, and to filter out your DMs. Why not? Business people do it all the time. Filter out the DMs. That's why you have administrative assistants, so you don't waste your time. My friend, you are an ambassador for the kingdom of heaven. You have important things to do. And there's nothing wrong with you having a social media assistant to help you filter through what is not worth your time, what's not worth the energy of your pain. And yes, our teenage kids have way more resilience for conflict, and they will be the ones to tend to say to us, roll their eyes, Mom, why are you even wasting time? That person is such a jerky or a jerk. Mom, that's so jerky. Why are you? And we'll be the ones going, no, but they're so nice, and I don't want to ruin the friendship, and I don't want them to think ill of me. Sometimes our kids smell it out. I had a situation a few years ago with somebody that I tried and I tried and I tried to be, a force for good. And finally, after it kind of blew up and I went, oh no, I'm another one of the people in the string of their broken relationships. And when I talked to my kids about it, they were like, Mom, I thought he was weird all the time. I always kind of wondered why you're putting so much effort into that. I always felt like kind of weird. Hello? They're of a different generation. They're not as conflict averse. Your kids, even if they're not necessarily walking with God, they probably smell a lot of stuff and they might rise up to defend you and do some of the dirty work of deleting bad comments, unfriending people who are abusive and are wasting your time, and even doing some responses for you. My kids actually could do fabulous responses for me in social commentary and debate. Your kids probably could too, even if they're not exactly on the same page. You can say, do your mom, pay them for gosh sakes. Manage my social media account for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, till I get through the rough patch. Consider it. Why not? These are the things we need to think about. You're not alone. You have more than you know. You have more than you know right under your nose. You have more power, more authority, more resource. And it has to do with thinking creatively about how to, quote unquote, skin the cat. There's a better way to go around the side and disarm a situation or make your point over here and limit your risk and exposure. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't we? And along the way, we will learn through our target practice to get more and more strong and less averse to discomfort and rejection. We really will. So, that's cool. And you might find some of the people in your life would be thrilled to support you and defend you and filter for you, at least in the short term. And you could back each other up, right? If you want to have what you've never had, you've got to be who you've never been before. Isn't that an interesting thought? I think we should talk about that. But in the meantime, you have more than you know. You have more than you know. God has placed around you and me things that will open our eyes and say, oh, wow, yeah. God, give us the grace to see what you've already given us, whether it's understanding a cue drop or whether it's the power and authority to heal the sick and raise the dead, or the ability to overcome discomfort and thrive and overcome anxiety, whether it's the ability to transform, whether it's the ability for your left eye and your right eye to change, shift. That's what I talked about at the beginning of the scope. My eyes literally changed. The doctor said they've changed, like they've shifted. It's really crazy. We have more than we know, and we have each other. And I really believe that now, strategically, to force multiply, to congeal, to build little teams, 2 or 3 people, to be your backup when you go into battle. Your human bot farm, your human overcoming bot farm. Why not? And so much more that I think we can consider doing. So that's my thought. Let's all do something that scares us. We can do it thoughtfully. We can do it with preparation. We can do it with support. We can do it with creativity. We can do it as target practice, getting better and better as we get ready for the big push. We can do it. I know we can. So